coming to you live from the heart of the free state of New Hampshire. This is The Independence with Carla Gericke. And now, here's your host, Carla Gericke.
Hi guys, and welcome back to The Independence. It has been a hot second, actually kind of a cold second, although to be honest, we are in our first fake spring. Yesterday was 75 degrees, as many of us know. So the snow is melting. We are in our first mud season of the season. But I also heard it's going to get cold again this weekend and possibly some snow. For folks following along, yes, I've been missing for, I think it was 1 week. I was under the weather. There was some kind of cooties going around. It seems like everyone has it. We just had Liberty Forum this weekend up at the Grapponi Center, where I jokingly told everyone that I am normalizing coughing at conferences again. Remember when we used to do that? But I'm sorry I did miss you guys last week. But I'm back, I'm here, and welcome to the show. I hope everyone is doing really great. Today we are going to be talking primarily about what's going on with the Free State Project. What was this Liberty Forum we just got off? What is coming up with PorcFest? Are the rumors true? What's the inside scoop? So hang around where you will get all the information coming up. The first thing I can say, though, for folks who only have the attention span of a couple of minutes, you should go to PorcFest.com and go get your tickets, and you can use code FREESTATER for $25 off your $75 ticket. So for $50, you can show your early support of this pioneering new way of doing things. So first, Liberty Forum. Wow, what a weekend. It was really, really great. It was a great event at the Grapponi. We had rented out all the space, so we didn't have like the conflicting, I don't know, I think last year we had a nurses group there as well or something. So we had all the space, enough people had room to kind of spread their elbows, some great new exhibitors, including Turning Point USA, of course, with the Charlie Kirk group. They'd never been there before, so it was interesting and nice to see them there. We had really great conversations about things like, why is New Hampshire's energy prices so high? I don't know if folks are aware, but the whole Northeast, actually, our energy prices are about 40% higher than the rest of the nation because of some idiotic thing where they tried to fix something 25 years ago, and of course, as they always do, made it worse. So there was a lot of discussion around energy, crypto, of course, Bitcoin, futurism, nuclear, some legislative wins that the individuals who are free staters who also serve at the State House talked about. But to give you guys a flavor, I'm going to read little bits out of some of the local coverage we got. So Concord Monitor came out. That was interesting. They actually sat in on my session, which one of them had to do with what should free staters be measuring. And we sort of explained to them we're doing it at like the Chatham rules, which means you can use it as a general jest, sort of on background of what you heard. But if you want to, directly quote me or anyone in the dialogue series, you need to catch them, outside the conference. The reporter never caught up with me again, but the article itself was, actually pretty straight up, genuine reporting, as we want, right, from our media. And then NHPR also came out. Now, that was a little more interesting because Josh Rogers, who has actually interviewed me before and not used the clips, I remember specifically because it was the day my mother-in-law died and I had to drive to Concord for this interview and I was sort of upset. And you know, it was a long interview. But anyway, Josh showed up at Liberty Forum. I did not see him tell people he was part of the media. I happened to clock him go by, so I went and got him a media pass and actually went to hand it to him in the room. When I saw him later, he was indeed not wearing that press pass. But be that as it may, NHPR also did some coverage. So what did the Concord Monitor have to say? So they said, the fringe has become the fabric. Facing opposition, Free Staters seek to build on legislative momentum. Now, this is interesting, and I think it's worth standing still for a hot second. The Free State Project itself is an educational nonprofit, right? So we put on conferences where we talk about things, where we look at what people have done, what other people might be doing, but the FSP itself does not take positions on legislation, and that's really important. So when you hear Free Staters, right, the way you need to think about it is we're talking about individuals. The Free State Project doesn't have membership. You know, you're not paying dues or anything. We have participants because we believe you should be exerting your fullest practical effort to expand liberty in New Hampshire. And so when it says Free Staters seek to build on legislative momentum, it's important to remember we're speaking about individuals and not the Free State Project organization itself. Now, it was very sweet, although they didn't quote me. I did get a nice little photo there at the start. And here we go. I probably won't read all of it, but I did think, actually, now that I saw Paul Chauvin's face here in the paper, I am going to mention this too. So it said, so let's see. So Rep. Tom Mannion, so the state Senate recently voted down a bill sponsored by Pelham Rep. Tom Mannion, which would have required a declaration of war by Congress before the National Guard serves overseas. Now, many of you know I've been talking on the show often about Defend the Guard legislation, which has now twice passed the New Hampshire House to be killed in the Senate. It's not just in the abstract, of course, now, because Trump has not declared war. Congress has not declared war. But you know what? We're in a hot war and in a hot mess in the Middle East. And I'm like, have we learned nothing, people? But apparently we have not. So the Senate killed Defend the Guard, meaning the Senate of New Hampshire is sending your friends, brothers, sisters, neighbors to go die in an undeclared war in Iran, which I'm pretty sure half of you can't even find on the map. What are we doing? So that was also a hot topic at Liberty Forum because it turns out Democrats are not principled anti-war people. Republicans are not principled anti-war people. So it's up to us, the libertarians, small L libertarians of the world, to say enough is enough. Can we look after America and not get involved in this massive mess that we are seeing? And gas prices from last Monday to whenever on Saturday when I was driving have gone up 50 cents already. So Tom was lamenting about the fact that the Senate did that. And then the article goes on to say, still, he's optimistic that New Hampshire is moving the needle towards what he sees as individual liberties, like repealing mandatory car inspections, which is a new law that is now tied up in court. Quote, giving that personal responsibility back to people, You're responsible for yourself, your own stuff, Gianella said. Sounds like not a big deal, but at the same time, any little chip away, more freedom, encouraging personal responsibility, I think is good. Paul Siobhan of Manchester agreed. He belongs to the sector of the group that jokingly calls himself pre-staters, people who already lived in New Hampshire but align with the Free State Project's values, and said he watched with interest and excitement when the movement chose New Hampshire as its target. Target, interesting choice word, right? That sounds a little biased. There's definitely signs that we've been moving in the right direction, Siobhan said. There's always going to be work to do. There's always going to be that next corner we turn that things could change and start regressing. So we have to keep freedom on the forefront, keep paying attention, stay alert. Now, why did I want to bring up Paul? Because we were standing in line together during one of the lunch sessions as everyone was waiting, to go to the buffet, and he goes, Carla, I have to tell you this. He's like, I was at Derryfield Restaurant the other day. Everyone knows on Mammoth Street, right, down at the golf course. He's like, I was over there, and I was sitting at the bar, and they have 3 big TVs, and on the one TV, they had the news. On the other TV, they had sports. And then on the other TV, they had your mug, my mug, he meant. He was like, the Independence was on the TV screen at the Derryfield Restaurant. And I will tell you, honestly, that pleased me to no end because, sometimes it feels like one is farting in the wind. It was probably a mistake. They probably knocked the remote, but it was nice to hear. So thanks for that news, Paul. I really enjoyed that. Here, the article goes on to say, others argue that the growing influence of libertarians, this time with a big L, in Concord degrades local communities. Seth Wheeler of Meredith, who attended a protest of the Free State Project last week, said he was motivated to run for state representative to protect public education from threats like the state's Education Freedom Program. Now listen to that wording. So, why is more school choice a threat? So if you're going to say bodily autonomy is a choice, right? Is that a threat? I mean, I'd say it's a threat to the fetus, and that's probably a more real threat than just giving people school choice. So some of the language in this article was a little biased. You can find it at the Concord Monitor. Go read all about it. There was this massive, I was surprised, protest in sorry, I have the thing stuck under my foot. There was a massive protest up at the State House when they did the State House tour. That's the first time I've seen something like that. It feels manufactured. There were 4 organizations. We talked about it on the show before it happened. Everyone had what looked like a handmade sign, but they were all identical and there were 100 of them. So there's definitely some funding coming in somewhere, which I find interesting. The other thing is now they're trying to frame this as the Free State Project as a political machine. No, it's not the project, it's the individuals. Like, can people understand the difference, right? Like, the FSP puts on events. That's what we do. That's all we do. We don't organize other things. And I suspect this sort of framing is because if we see the repetition of habits and bad practices over time, like undeclared war with Iraq becoming an undeclared war with Iran, right? Like these bad habits repeat because no one is ever held accountable, and that is part of the shell game of politics. But I suspect the IRS is going to start to look at 501c3s again. It's going to be one of those moves that they did back in 2011, 12, 13, if I have my dates more or less right, under Obama, where they started to go after all the, what they deem right wing, which of course the Free State Project is not. The right wing and the left wing are wings on the same bird. which means, actually, I saw a great meme today where it was an airplane, and it was like, they tell you it's Republicans versus Democrats, but it's really Republicans and Democrats, and that's why everyone keeps going in a circle, and I might say even down the drain at this stage. So I suspect there's a little bit of a political play afoot, that they are trying to create some narrative that is untrue about the Free State Project as an organization. But remember, it is the individuals doing things. NPR, I will just read the intro here. It says, hundreds of libertarians gathered in Concord over the weekend for the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. The event featured policy speeches, panel discussions, candidate visits. So we had both Scott Brown came and Aaron Day, who's running as an independent, who was the spoiler back in 2016. He polled about, I think it was 20,000 votes. And that was the reason Kelly Ayotte lost. So to the politicos, I would take his positions at least seriously enough to understand he is a credible spoiler. So candidate visits, dinner gatherings, and after parties, and served as a quasi-political convention. Again, suddenly the wording is a little like, oh, what are you guys up to? Quasi-political convention for the Free State Project, a now 25-year effort to get 20,000 people to move to New Hampshire to seek liberty in our lifetime. So, it's remarkable to me that people are so anti-liberty. Like, I don't even get it, guys. I really, really don't. So there were, oh no, that's a problem. Sorry, guys. Oh, you idiot. Sorry about that. My apologies. So I need to fix that so that doesn't happen again. But NPR and HPR focused a lot on Jason Osborne, who's the current majority leader's talk. I'm going to do some of his quotes here. So he says, sometimes you have to go on the 6 o'clock news and have to say with a straight face something you don't actually believe, Osborne said. I didn't like that quote. I didn't like it when he said it. I thought that made him sound like a shady politician. Then he said, another rule, your vote is just a tool. A protest vote has never repealed a single law or cut a tax, Osborne said. A well-organized coalition voting for imperfect candidates, flawed candidates, candidates you may not even like at all, has achieved those things in New Hampshire in your lifetime. So he says, Osborne's call for pragmatism over ideological purity isn't the norm at the Free State Project event. Other speakers favored more slash and burn messages. Bitcoin investor and former U.S. Senate candidate Bruce Fenton said spent his time at the podium to rail against ICE, Israel, and President Donald Trump. So, said Fenton, it wasn't the brightest idea to back this grifter, but grifter he is. He means Trump, Fenton said. But I think the tide is turning. I, too, think the tide is turning. I think this election in November is going to be a huge referendum on the war. And I'm going to say Americans are tired of it. We're tired of being broke. We're tired of having our money inflated away. We are tired of the elites stealing our futures. And I think you're going to see that at the polls. All right, with the last 10 minutes we have, I'm going to tell you what's coming up with PorcFest. And I want to make sure that I mention a few events that are coming up. Save the date for one this weekend is, of course, the NHLP, so the New Hampshire Libertarian Party Convention that is taking place this weekend. You needed to be signed up already, so if you're not signed up, it's not for you. There on the 18th of April will be the Pine Tree Riot event that always takes place out in Ware. That one will be AFP New Hampshire, so you can get more information there. While I think of AFP for the folks who are like, hey, what happened in that special election yesterday? Because remember, we had SB2 town halls yesterday. There was a fair amount of pushback on some of the school budgets I saw, but people were saying, oh, this special election in Wolfboro would be sort of a reflection of where the tide is turning. The candidate that AFP was backing did lose. So I think that is probably also a leading indicator of some changes that are underfoot. All right, PorcFest, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, now in its 23rd year. So many of you may have heard that there was a lot of sort of flux this year. Our campground, Rogers Campground, where I've always had a very marvelous relationship with the campground owner who has done us very well over the 22 years, was just kind of done with the negativity, the people who are doing negative reviews, people bad-mouthing, being rude, just really not coming to the party with bona fides. And of course, the campground was never designed for like a huge festival with 3,000 people, with tents, with vendors, with food, with all these things. So Crosby wanted us to go back to the basics, to what it used to be when we would all sort of gather together on the campground. So camping is open at Rogers if you want to do it, but it's camping, no vending, no events, just hanging out. All right, given those constraints, my team, or the team under Eric, decided they wanted to go and see if they could find a new venue. So off they sallied into New Hampshire to see what was available. Well, needless to say, much like you might expect if someone tried to move Burning Man from its current site to somewhere else, there were challenges because we like to open carry. We like to bring our dogs. We believe children can free range, that they can go about their way and maybe just have a bracelet with a phone number on it, right? So these were some of the constraints that had to be met in order to move the location. We did find a partner in Rochester, but it turned out that the city got involved and there was some kind of either permitting or zoning or some issue. So that one kind of fell through. All right. So what do you do when you're faced with challenges? You decide to come up with a brand new old plan. So across all of PorcFest's history, we have been working on decentralization. So back in the day, PorcFest was a tell, don't show kind of event. Then as more and more Free Staters moved here, more and more people came to the campground. Someone like Dennis Pratt, who very recently organized PorcFest, oh my God, brought in the, I put the phone off. I'm sorry, guys. I don't even know what to do. It's just going to have to ring in the background there. So, sorry. Let me see if So I put the phone off. I do apologize. This is ridiculous. So we created the hubs under Dennis, of course, which were more and more little groups of people doing talks and doing different things. So we are taking that model, basically the hub model, and what used to be on the campground at Rogers has now been zoomed out to the entire state of New Hampshire. Why? Because we've built it, guys. The clubhouses exist, the schools exist, the farms exist, the businesses exist, and that is what we want to showcase to visitors when they come to New Hampshire. When will PorcFest take place? It will take place June 21st, so starting on the summer solstice, and run for a week. There will be maybe extra bonus events or encore events, which would be our typical sort of start of the month events in the second week, things like the Bardo potluck. and more. But for the week of PorcFest, starting June 21st, there will be a passport across New Hampshire. It will be a literal passport, and people will be encouraged to go to some of the participating clubhouses, to people who put something on the schedule, to go and use the entire state as your canvas to explore New Hampshire. The goals here are twofold. One is to actually showcase the community across the state itself. Two, to make it more decentralized so that you can decide, oh, maybe I don't want to be up at Rogers, maybe I want to be further south. One of our partners, Latitude Learning, they have a summer children's camp that runs that week. Maybe you come and you decide, oh, I want to camp near Nashua and I want to send my kids there and I want to take a little soft holiday. The sky is really the limit. Because I realize it is a bit of an ask for people to drive around, and I don't know what the gas prices are going to look like in June, but that one's not on me, that's on Trump. We are creating a literal passport with participating partners, and there will be a, drum roll please, $10,000 free Ian Now prize, which we will award at a drawing at Rogers Campground at 3 p.m. on the last Saturday of PorcFest when we gather for our group photo. You have to be present to win. The $10,000 is obviously designed as an incentive to, one, bring people in, but also to encourage them to actually go visit all these places where we are going to put on awesome, amazing, community-driven programming. So we have a bunch of participating venues already. We are going to do a tech reveal next week where we will show people how they can put their things up online. But what you can do right now to help us launch this new and exciting and hugely, hugely scalable event, because Bike Week back in the day brought in 400,000 people to New Hampshire for that week. Now, I'm not saying we're going to hit 400,000, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, who knows? But what I do know is this model can serve us and serve the state of New Hampshire, because tourism is our #1 industry. So I love it. I kind of have always had an idea that this is where we would go. Would it have been this year? No. Should we try new things? Yes. Let's give it a bash. Maybe everyone on the internet who seems to think I'm wrong will be right. Maybe not. Let's see. But what can you do? You can go to porcfest.com right now, use the code FREESTATER, get your $25 off, and that will give you bragging rights that you were a pioneer that supported this new model that is going to serve our needs just as well. The idea with going back to Rogers on the Saturday afternoon is to bring that unity event or that unity sense, that pilgrimage sense back to it as well. I'm out of time. I apologize for all the phone calls. I don't know what was happening. That's pretty annoying. So I will try and make sure that doesn't happen again. Thank you for joining me. I'm Carla Gericke. I wish you peace, love, and understanding.